I came home one sweltering July afternoon in 2024 to find my front porch in Oak Ridge, a quiet suburb of Portland, looking like it had been stripped bare by a tornado. The usual clutter-potted plants, a weathered chair, and the shadow box displaying my Navy medals was gone, leaving the space unnaturally tidy. At first, I chalked it up to an overzealous city cleanup crew. But then I noticed the empty nails where my shadow box used to hang. The one holding my silver star, a commendation my dad had pinned on me with trembling hands, and a few ribbons that meant nothing to anyone but me. My gut twisted. This wasn't a mistake. Someone had taken it. Across the street, my neighbor, Linda Harris, stood on her pristine lawn, gripping a broom in one hand and a clipboard in the other, looking like she'd just won a chess match. Her smug grin told me everything I needed to know. "Linda," I called, keeping my voice steady despite the heat rising in my chest. "Please tell me you didn't just throw out a piece of my life." She waved me off like I was a pesky mosquito. "That box was an eyesore," she snapped. "This neighborhood has standards, Jack. It looked like junk tacked to your wall, so I had it removed." "You're welcome." My hands itched to ball into fists, but I shoved them into my pockets. Years in the Navy had taught me to keep my cool under fire, but this was different. Linda had decided she could erase my memories because they didn't fit her vision of a perfect cul-de-sac. I crossed the street, my boots thudding on the asphalt, and asked, "Where is it now?" She tapped her clipboard, glancing at her neat little notes. "Trash pickup was this morning. If you hustle, you might catch the truck down the block." Her tone was so casual, like she was sharing a cookie recipe. I wanted to scream, but instead, I sprinted. At the corner, I flagged down the sanitation crew just as they were about to empty the last bins. I explained, words tumbling out, that my medals might be in there. The workers didn't laugh. One guy, with a kind nod, helped me dig through coffee grounds and soggy cardboard until he pulled out the shadow box. Its glass cracked, but the contents intact. He handed it to me like it was fragile cargo, and that small act of respect nearly broke me. I walked back, clutching the box, and found Linda waiting, arms crossed. "You're not putting that back up," she declared, like a queen issuing a decree. "It's against HOA rules to display unsightly objects on exterior walls." I raised an eyebrow. "Unsightly, Linda? This is a silver star. The Navy didn't give it to me for bad decorating." She pursed her lips. "This community doesn't need your military trophies dragging down property values. Keep them inside where they belong." Her voice had that grating self-righteousness of someone who thinks volume equals authority. I didn't snap. Instead, I said, "Fine. Let's see how far your clipboard goes when the local news hears about the HOA president tossing a veteran's medals in the trash." Her smugness faltered, just for a second, and I knew I'd landed a hit. She huffed, "You wouldn't dare." It had embarrassed the whole neighborhood. I gave her the smile I used to reserve for smug officers overseas. "Oh, Linda, I'd enjoy every second of it." That night, I cleaned the grime off the shadow box and hung it above my living room fireplace. It wasn't surrender, it was strategy. Linda had drawn first blood, but people like her always overplay their hand. The next day, a crisp HOA violation notice landed in my mailbox, citing improper display of personal items visible to the public. Apparently, carrying my medals inside was enough to offend her delicate sensibilities. I laughed, tucked the letter into a folder labeled Evidence, and waited for her next move. Sure enough, 2 days later, Linda marched over while I sipped coffee on my porch, watching kids race scooters down the street. Her HOA polo was stretched tight, clipboard at the ready like it was her badge of honor. "I see you moved your little trophies inside," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Smart move, Jack. The board's pleased you're finally learning what community pride means." I took a slow sip, letting her think she'd won. "Linda, you ever notice the more you try to control people, the less control you have?" Her brow furrowed. She hated being challenged. "I'm just enforcing the rules," she shot back. Without order, this place would be a dump pools in front yards, junk on walls, veterans making their sob stories everyone's problem. I leaned back. "Sob stories? Linda, I've seen real chaos. Your version's more like a bad neighborhood watch meeting." Her face reddened, but she doubled down. "By the way, I filed a complaint with the police. You left trash all over the curb when you rummaged through those bins. That's littering misdemeanor." She waved her phone like it was a loaded gun. I nearly choked on my coffee, laughing. You called the cops because I retrieved my own property? That you threw out. She didn't blink. The law applies to everyone, even veterans. That weekend, a patrol car rolled up. I stepped outside before they could knock. The officer, looking embarrassed, said, "We got a call about littering on your property." I pointed at the spotless curb. "See any trash?" He shook his head, then leaned in. "Between us, she's called us 6 times this year. Nothing sticks. Just keep records." I thanked him, and as he drove off, Linda stormed out, shrieking, "Why didn't they ticket you?" I spread my arms. "Because, Linda, my curb's cleaner than your conscience." Word spread fast. Neighbors started sharing their own Linda stories. Mrs. Nguyen, from 2 houses down, told me Linda had fined her for unauthorized marigolds. Mr. Carter complained about notices over his kid's bike ramp. Within a week, 5 households had sent me notes about her tyranny. I drafted a letter to the HOA board, attaching Linda's notices, the officer's statement, and neighbor complaints, but I held off sending it. Timing was everything. Then Linda escalated. One night, I caught her dragging my trash bin down the driveway, muttering about non-compliant container colors. I stepped out, grill tongs in hand. "Linda, unless you're grilling that bin, put it back." She froze, stammering, "It's the wrong shade of green." I stared. "It's city issued. You gonna arrest the sanitation department too?" She dropped the bin and fled, and I knew she was slipping. A few days later, an orange notice was taped to my door, claiming my living room window violated HOA rules because my metals were visible from the street. I laughed, then marched to Linda's house. She opened the door, smirking. "Rules are rules, Jack. If it's seen from outside, it counts." I held up the notice. "You're fining me for something inside my own home." Her smirk widened. "Pay the fine, or face liens and collections. Nobody's above the HOA." That was when I stopped playing nice. I called the city's housing department, and a clerk confirmed no HOA could regulate indoor displays. "That's harassment," she said, sending me the municipal code. I slipped a highlighted copy under Linda's door with a note, "For your clipboard." The next morning, my American flag flown every day since I retired was gone. I found Linda by her garage, her smirk betraying her. "Flags need approval," she said triumphantly. "It's in the bylaws." My voice was ice. "Stealing a veteran's flag isn't a bylaw, Linda. It's theft." I called the police. When they arrived, she admitted to disposing of it. The officers made her retrieve it from her trash, warning her of charges if it happened again. The neighborhood buzzed. Linda's flag stunt made her a pariah. Then came her boldest move, an email from her personal account, not the HOA's, calling me a dangerous resident who threatened her and brandished weapons. She even implied my Navy service made me unstable. I forwarded it to the board with a note. "This is libel. Fix it." The board president, Tom, replied, disavowing her message. But Linda wasn't done. A process server delivered a restraining order request, claiming I'd stalked her. I laughed, then compiled my evidence. Notices, police reports, videos, neighbor statements. The court date loomed. The night before the hearing, code enforcement swarmed my yard, measuring grass and inspecting fences, thanks to an anonymous tip. The lead inspector, recognizing me from a veterans event, muttered, "She's been pulling this all over town. We're flagging her for harassment." At court, Linda played the victim, her lawyers spinning tales of my terrorizing her. I presented my binder every notice, video, and statement. The judge's eyebrows climbed as I laid out the shredded flag, the 2 a.m. mail theft, the slanderous email. When asked for evidence, Linda floundered. The judge ruled her actions harassment and potential crimes, dismissing her request. The next morning, police arrested Linda for theft, mail tampering, and property destruction, thanks to my footage of her dumping shredded flags and stolen mail on my lawn. The cul-de-sac watched as she was cuffed, her clipboard confiscated. At an emergency HOA meeting, neighbors aired years of grievances. I proposed nullifying Linda's fines, forming a resident oversight committee, and ousting the board. The crowd voted overwhelmingly in favor. Linda's reign was over. Her house went dark, and soon a moving truck appeared. She left without a word, her empire in ruins. Now, Oak Ridge feels alive. Kids ride bikes freely, neighbors chat without fear, and my flag flies proud. My medals shine above the fireplace, a quiet reminder of battles won overseas and at home. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have fought Linda's tyranny head-on or played the long game like I did? Should HOAs have the power to control what you display in your own home? Drop your thoughts below, and if you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more.